Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, yeah, it's great to have you again with us in the 11th Ship It session. So, if you haven't been there before, what we do in the Ship It session is we take DevOps agents or like coding agents and use them to do some operations, like or production DevOps kind of work. And we do this live and raw to test the agents, show you the capabilities, what they can and cannot do, and the best ways to use them. Because as we're building Stakpak, we figure out new ways of using agents in DevOps and like how to make them better at actually managing your infrastructure or handling security tasks. So this is the first time of you seeing Stakpak. Stakpak is an open source agent built in Rust, specifically designed for production operations. So it can do things other agents will get stuck at in terms of DevOps, and is built with security in mind. So it knows how to handle secrets, has some like 100% deterministic guardrails to prevent the agent from destroying your cloud infrastructure. So it has some very specific security and like DevOps oriented features. And yeah, so today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about rulebooks. So I can actually share my screen to show you a bit. Like we revamped our documentation. So I can show you something interesting here. Okay. So yep. So you can see my screen now, right? Noor?
It's still black. Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, now we
Yeah,
can
okay.
see.
Okay, amazing. So yeah, we revamped the documentation. We reorganized it. So now it's broken down like by actually like how Stackpack works internally. Some tutorials, hands-on tutorials. So instead of like having these nested layers, we just like made stuff flat. And you can see that at the top of the features, there's something called rulebooks. And rulebooks is like if you used the coding agent before, you're familiar with rule files. Rule files allow you to add custom instructions to the agents to customize them, to make them able to do stuff more efficiently, teach them about how you do things and your project conventions. This doesn't work quite well, apparently, when you apply it to DevOps infrastructure because most of the conventions or the procedures you're building are shared across projects. Some of them don't even live inside a project. So the way you handle permissions, for example, like you might not be there yet in terms of like codifying or putting everything into infrastructure as code. And you might have some processes that cannot be codified or cannot be added into a specific repo. Or you have conventions that cross the boundaries of repositories or projects. Or you actually use multiple version control systems and you want something across these version control systems, or like something, for example, like configurations go into GitLab and code goes into GitHub, for example. So these like things can hardly be encoded in a single repository. So we usually found in practice, you need something that is organization or team wide. So that's why we created rulebooks. So rulebooks are like markdown files where you can actually teach. So I think we have an example here. So you can teach like this one, the Dockerization rulebook. So these are just a markdown page where you have to specify your procedures, how you like to do things, and the agent will be able to pick the right rulebook at the right moment to do that thing. So we're constantly adding a lot of stuff. So we added stuff about Dockerization, cost reduction, infrastructure upgrades, among other things. We'll keep adding rulebooks as we go, as we found more use cases. And what we do is like we
Yeah,
keep
George,
working
you
on
can,
refining these. Sorry, what?
yeah, you can press on rule books and you will see them, like in the documentation. It is
Yes.
a nested list on the left.
Yes, here.
On
Yeah,
the
for
left,
example.
no, in the menu bar.
Yeah, these are some
Yeah,
of them, but yeah, we're adding a lot of stuff all the time. So this is the one we used last time, like in the last Ship It session, migrating Bitnami to Bitnami Legacy, Dockerization, cost estimations, and we keep adding stuff. And we also partner with people to bring their own knowledge and encode them into rulebooks. And what this does is it gives you a library of stuff that the agent can pull at the right time to handle use cases quickly without you having to write like a 2-page long prompt because it knows how to do the thing. And the cool thing is you can fork these rule books or you can write your own to teach the agent to do stuff your own way or customize them. And this is super powerful. Like it's much better than having like creating sub agents or creating custom system prompts because it's much less effort. You write these rule books as if you're writing them to yourself or someone like another human. But then the agent can mix and match these rule books. So if it's handling a task and a task has something that is related to upgrading something, it will pull the upgrade rulebook. Then estimating the cost, it will pull the cost estimation rulebook all within the same session. So you don't have to switch between like sub agents or like system prompts. Yeah, so that's it. What we're going to do today is Noor is going to like decided to take a step, take one for the team, and decide like to build his own rulebook from scratch. So he's going to walk us through like the problem. Yeah, if you can tell us about the problem you were trying to solve, and how you structured your rulebook to solve it, and then we can like jump right into the demo and test it out.
Yeah, first, let me share my screen. Here, can you see it? Yeah, I think so. So
Yeah, all
first,
good.
let's
Yeah.
see how we can access the rulebooks. Yeah, so I show you mine. So you go to the Stakpak website, then you press sign in, and you sign in, and then you can see here on the left, there is a tab called rules, and yeah, let's wait. Yeah, and after like you open it, you can see all the rule books. So it's divided into official rule books and the rule books that you make. And here you can press create a rule book, and here you can it's just a markdown file, and you add the tags and like you name your rule book, and then you are ready to go. So here is the rule book I made. So while doing like DevOps work, sometimes you want to do like cost optimization, or you want to change stuff in the infrastructure, etc. So I was thinking maybe I can make a rule book and teach it the best practices, like the well-architected framework that AWS made, or like all the best practice and the security best practices, etc. So I can ask Stakpak about, like for example, either to design a new infrastructure from scratch or to optimize my current infrastructure. So what I did is like what we will be. I'll go through the rulebook, but like what I plan for today is like we have like requirements, architecture requirements, and we'll be trying it to Stakpak and see like if I give Stakpak these requirements, what is it gonna do, like which question it is gonna ask me, etc. And also we have like a CloudFormation template, and we will use that template to like I will ask Stakpak to improve this infrastructure.
Okay, so I get this right,
So
because I've never seen this rulebook like to now. It's the first time I see it. So the goal of the rulebook
yeah,
is to help you apply the well-architected framework, the AWS well-architected framework, which is like a set of AWS best
yeah.
practices to a specific project. So it's either a project you already have or something you already have, and you want to check it against the framework and see how you can optimize it or improve it, or building something from scratch, right?
Yeah. So it consists of phases: discover, design, review, and optimize. So in the discovery phase, it is trying to figure out like what like what are we working with? Like, do we have already an infrastructure we want to improve? And like, is it a group of Terraform code, for example, or we have infrastructure already deployed in AWS? Like it's and like it is, and also like it tries to gather business requirements to understand the app more, like what does it do, which kind of how many clients it's gonna serve, etc. And in the design phase, like it proposes an initial architecture, and then you can like prompt it to edit certain stuff, and like it shows you the trade-offs, etc. Like if you want it to be more cost efficient or serverless, etc., you just prompt it, and it like proposes a new modified infrastructure, and then you review it. And after you review it and make sure like it follows the well-architected framework lenses or guidelines, like you either like it writes a report, and you either ask it to implement it, or you just, for example, send the report to your manager or coworker, etc.
Okay, so yeah, why do you think like the well architecture framework, like having a rule book that implements the well architecture framework, is actually something useful? Like when in the software development lifecycle, you think this would be important? I have a couple of thoughts, but like I wanted to see your
I
take
think
first
it's
because you decided to build it.
Yeah, I think like the AWS architecture framework is a standard. Like it consists of 5 pillars, I guess, which is security, reliability, efficiency, cost optimization, and sustainability. And in each of these pillars, like there are the best practices to ensure that your application like has a like is built right from the ground up, so you don't forget anything. So yeah, what do you think? Like, would you use a well architected framework?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of reading to get through it. So I think like the first thing that came to
Yeah,
mind
I
when
think
you
that's why
when you
I asked
yeah
Stakpak. Yeah,
when you showed me the rule book, yeah, is that
yeah,
I wouldn't have to read this and then think of how to map this because there's a lot of text. I think there's a lot also of theoretical
and the
stuff in
PDF is
the in
huge. Yeah,
yeah, and there's a lot of theoretical stuff. So I really like this approach. Like, it's like summarizing it into a rulebook and then asking the agent to do the gap analysis on my behalf and make suggestions. So then I can like take it and work with it. So I think this is super cool. So previously, like I tried going through the well-architected framework, but I got bored after reading the security pillar and I didn't go through the rest. So yeah, I will try this too. But yeah, again, let's jump to your example. Like I would love to see how this would work. I'm curious to see how it would work actually.
yeah, it's the first time. So here, like first, let's go to the architecture or the requirements. Here is a like we are deploying a video game, like an architecture for a video game, and it
If you can
has
zoom
like
in a bit, it would
front
be
end.
great because like we can
Yeah,
see the text
yeah,
well.
yeah. That's better.
Yes, much better. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a video game like architecture for a serverless video game that we want to deploy in AWS, and it is supposed to be scalable and to process data in real time and to be secure for both gamers and managers, because there are like the managers to for the like can see the historical game stats and like see the performance, etc. So the rulebook is supposed to map these requirements to certain AWS services while maintaining the following the best practices. So all what I'm gonna do is like copy this and go to Stackpack and paste it, and then ask it to help me design an architecture for this app. Then I will press.
I'm not sure what Noor was about to press, but yeah, he apparently pressed something that like took his browser down or something. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, we can take some questions until Noor is back online. So please, yeah, please ask away. Like if you have any questions about agents, architectures, um, Stackpack specifically, or like coding agents in general, like would love to answer. Yeah, apologies about that. Like while we're waiting for Noor to get back, like please ask away about anything. Or I can actually show you a demo of how rulebooks work. So yeah, I can actually do that. So here, let me add my screen. Wow, it's not letting me share my screen. This is odd. Okay, yeah, guess I can't share my screen. So I'll have to wait for Noor. Why can't I share my screen? That's odd. Yeah, Noor is back.
Yeah,
Awesome.
sorry, the internet went off.
Yeah, you said you would press something, but like we're not sure what you pressed exactly. How do
Oh,
you
I
feel
just
that?
pasted the requirements, okay, and then I asked it to design the architecture, and it like pulled the rule book, and now like it's asking questions
Can you share your
about.
screen because we can't see your screen?
Oh yeah, sorry.
I tried sharing mine. I was going to show people stuff, but like I couldn't either. So okay, yeah. Can you
Yeah,
walk us through like what you did because you were offline? So
yeah.
after you
So
pasted the architecture, yeah.
yeah, I just asked it to design an AWS architecture, and then it pulled the rule book and made the to-do list, okay, and then like
What was in the to-do list exactly? Like, can you walk us
okay,
through
the
it? Like,
to-do list, like let me zoom in a little bit. So um, it will gather the detailed requirements for the serverless gaming application, and then it will design the architecture following the serverless approach because we stated that in the prompt. Okay, and then it will map the requirements to AWS services, and then it will make sure it follows the well-architected framework, and then it will generate the documentation and the diagram, and then it will do cost estimate and like make recommendations. So right
interesting.
now,
I want to know if at some point we get to a point where like TUIs can display diagrams because this would be really cool. So I'm curious
yeah,
of
I
how
see.
Stackpack would handle the diagram part.
Yeah. Like in the morning, I was trying it to ask the questions one by one, but like I failed. But maybe you can help me. Like you wrote a lot of rule books, so let's see.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, I
asking
think
about the type
What
of
Noor is mentioning, it's like it's asking clarifying questions, but like what Noor is talking about is it's asking all the questions at the same time instead of breaking them down bit by
yeah,
bit.
which can
Like,
be overwhelming.
yeah. So what kind
Uh,
of ask questions is it asking?
what type of game is it? Real-time, multiplayer, turn-based, mobile, web-hosted? It's asking about the concurrent players. I said hundreds. Oh, of course, the more accurate the data is, the better the architecture it will be. And then it asks about game session duration. I said minutes, real-time requirements. Okay, and there are stuff that I would just leave because I don't know the answer to it. Like it's okay. And then what game telemetry needs to be captured. For example, player actions. And like if we skip, it will propose an initial architecture and then we can modify it.
It's interesting.
Uh,
Like it's asking about the geographical scope. Like, is it a global or a specific location? And if it fall under any compliance requirements, like a GDPR or like data
I think,
residency, for
yeah,
example.
because that's in
Uh,
the well-architected framework.
Yeah, this is super interesting because this is something developers rarely think about when we're like, as developer. I'm a developer. Like when I'm designing a system for the first time and wanted to deploy it, I rarely think about this stuff uh, in the beginning. Like I just want the code to run, but this asks the right questions. Like especially if you're
But
building
I
stuff with
think,
serverless, it's very tricky because there are some things with serverless that are pretty locked in, like Lambda functions, for example. And I need to plan everything ahead because once I lock in into a serverless service, it's very hard to move to something else.
and I think like that's how the solution architects think. So they probably go through all of this stuff, whether they do it naturally or by following a framework. But I think that's like their mindset, which is really cool that the rule book is teaching Stackpack how to think like an architect. But let's see, like I'll just press enter and see like if it asks for more information.
It's really nice to see it. Like it started stitching together specific serverless services like DynamoDB popping up, like an API gateway, and using Cognito for authentication. Like if you're not familiar with AWS, these like all these keywords, you can just like pick them up and research them to figure out like the different parts you can fit together. Because like it's super hard to figure out what's possible on AWS. Like you have hundreds of services. So what is it asking about now?
It wants more details. So I will give it details.
That's actually good. Like it's great that it didn't rush into like an architecture right away. It keeps asking questions, which is a good sign. Because there are a lot of details. Like even if you specify the architecture in details, there's still a lot of holes to fill. And I think you did a great job writing this rulebook because it asks questions, which is great.
But like I'm trying to think like how like if I'm doing it without a rulebook or without an agent, like how long it would take me, and I feel like I would miss a lot of the important stuff. I feel it like puts stuff into perspective. I still decide what I want to build exactly, but like it's like a to-do list. It makes sure that I don't forget anything.
Yeah, I think you can do this even without like a rulebook. It would be like an intelligent assistant walking you through everything. Like you can do this with Claude and ChatGPT. But I
Oh
think
yeah.
the cool thing about this here is like someone that read the well-architected framework, like yourself, and writing this down would allow you to get started with this with a very short prompt. So instead of having to describe the well-architected framework and teach it about it, you just ask right away what you want to do, and it will be able to figure these details out. So I think this is the difference. And if it's a coding agent or like an agent in terminal or like Stakpak, you would then like you get the output architecture, but you can also follow to the next step because it's aware of the context as well. So I think like the mix of the rulebook and the agent is great. You can definitely replicate this with something like Cloud Code or Codex, but you would have to write the rulebook yourself. Like you have to figure out, like read, understand these best practices, encode them into a succinct rulebook, and then pull it to use it. So what is it doing now?
It's like reading the rulebook. I mean the documentation from AWS to it's trying to search for DynamoDB gaming session state management, and like what I was gonna say is that like what would make this or any or ChatGPT or Claude produce accurate results is giving it more context. Like the more context we give it, like I think it would produce more accurate architectures, and more scalable and more secure, etc.
I think if we have more rulebooks about like specifically like building game servers on
Serverless or
AWS,
event-driven.
this would make it
Yeah,
even better. Yeah, exactly. Because
like
then it
teaching
can
it the
combine.
design patterns.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Because then it can combine like the generic well-architected like AWS architect rulebook with a rulebook someone wrote about like building like a real-time game on AWS, which has a lot of examples and caveats about like the nuances of designing something real-time on AWS, which is interesting. Yeah. Yeah, is this a bug? I think we just caught a bug. Okay, let's like I will
that's from
screenshot
Claude.
this. Yeah. Yeah, we'd have to look into it.
Look,
That's
it
great.
drew the architecture.
Interesting. Yeah, I was curious about this part, like if we would get the format right, but this is crazy. Like, can you show us what it did? So first, I want
Core
to see
services.
like first like before going to that, like I want to see what kind of like the search tool calls that failed. Like what was trying to search? Okay, Lambda performance optimization, gaming, cold starts. Okay, so this didn't work. So it was trying to see like how to load stuff quickly on Lambda and DynamoDB storing sessions, game sessions, DynamoDB. But like, yeah, these are very specific. Like, we'll have to check that why it failed. But yeah, cool. Yeah, scrolling down. Yeah, I think we hit the rate limit. I think here, like the error we got is like we hit the rate limit. That's why it
Too many
failed.
requests. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it screwed up the terminal. I think one thing you could do if this happens, like you can like either wait for the terminal to refresh, or you can exit the session and just resume it again.
I think I will.
Yeah, if it's bothering you. And just hit /resume.
Yeah. So let's see
Okay.
what. Oh, that's cool.
That's a lot
So
of text.
first, yeah. First, like for real-time communication, because I said I want like real-time moves and chat, okay, in the game, and it is gonna use the API Gateway WebSocket, which is bidirectional real-time communication. CloudFront, because we say for like so it's because I also said I wanted to be sub 100 millisecond latency in Europe, and it will use Lambda for the game logic processing. Then will be for the session player stats, for the stats in general. Elastic Cache for real-time leaderboards. S3 for the assets. And for monitoring, it will use CloudWatch and Kinesis data streams. That's I think that's for the leaderboards, the Kinesis data streams. And for processing the analytics, it will also use Lambda. And that's the architecture it drew. Okay. And then
Can you go back to the architecture? Like I couldn't see. Like, is this like a network architecture? Okay, so the web client, the CloudFront edge cache, API gateway WebSockets, and
yeah,
then we have 3 lambdas. Like one for connecting. What does connecting mean? And one for the game logic, and one for the chat and messages. So it added some social features. Okay, interesting.
yeah, I
And
think
then DynamoDB, yeah.
For connecting, I think because of I think I said it will have like they can sign in with their social media.
Okay. Yeah, and it broke down like high level the models or like the sort of tables in DynamoDB, and Elasticache, Redis for leaderboards and session cache, and then Kinesis data for real-time analytics, and then CloudWatch for monitoring and alerting. Yeah, so I think like in terms of diagram quality,
High level
it
architecture.
looks, yeah, it's super high level, and like not data doesn't necessarily flow from DynamoDB to Elastic Redis and like to other things. I think like if you want to pull data out of DynamoDB to push it into Redis or Kinesis, you'd have to create a Lambda function or something, at least as far as I know. So I think like the diagram is super high level. It's not like very concrete, but it gives you a rough idea of what's going on.
And that's for the sub 100 millisecond latency. That's how it's recommending that we do it using the DynamoDB accelerator. As far as I know, that's expensive, so maybe we can ask it to like make it more cost efficient.
We can ask it first, like to estimate the costs, and then we can like go further and try optimize.
And that's our architected preview. It already made the monthly cost.
Really? How much would this cost?
So it's per service, API gateway 450 USD. If we had 3 million connections, it made assumptions, I guess, and 150 million messages.
Interesting, because like it's usually a pain to calculate costs for serverless stuff, because you have to take usage into consideration, because they're mostly usage based.
I think it made a lot of assumptions. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, but like I'm curious more about like, did it get the figures accurately? Because this is something I think you can add to the rulebook, is that instead of the LLM trying to calculate this like at the back of a napkin and just like come up with the figures, I would trust it more if it uses a Python script to crunch the numbers. So it can come up with the estimates, like 3 million connections and the number of messages and so on. But like to calculate the actual cost, I would rather it have like creating a Python script to crunch the numbers instead of it trying to calculate, because LLMs are notoriously known for, like Claude is good at that, but like I still don't trust it to like add numbers.
Yeah,
So that may be a nice thing to do in this rule book.
and then it made like implementation recommendations. Common sense.
I
And
like
then
the risk
it's
mitigation.
recommending that we,
I like the risk mitigation part. This is very interesting. Like this is very deep knowledge about like the AWS services.
yeah, I think it's a mix of using the official AWS documentation and the well-architected framework.
Because,
So
for
what,
example, like if you won't know about the Lambda cold starts if you never use Lambda before, and DynamoDB throttling. This is something I never faced myself before. Is like it throttles your traffic on like the usage-based pricing. So this is very interesting. Yeah, can you go back to
there is
the
a graph
yeah.
that shows it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because like you wouldn't know this if you didn't use Lambda before. So it's great that it was able to pick this up from the documentation. And also about the other things like the on-demand billing with burst capacity in DynamoDB. I didn't know that. And the WebSocket connection limit. This is also a huge pain. Like if you're using like a verse proxy or a load balancer, it has a connection limit or has like yeah, load balancers usually hate WebSockets. So a lot of them like screwed this up. So it's good to know about this limitation and about the regional failures. So this happens in practice. Like I was trying to provision stuff on Google Cloud recently, and it just ran out of resources, and I couldn't. Like, and if we didn't have multi AZs or multi availability zones, which is something AWS makes super easy, this would have been an issue. So these are very interesting caveats, like that it made you aware of the limitations of the AWS services. This is cool.
What do you think I should prompt it next?
Yeah, so first, I think you should take note, like the risk mitigation part is great, but the calculations should be done with Python. But the next steps, I think, do you already have, like you mentioned you had a CloudFormation template. Do you want to generate something or like do you want to
Yeah, do you
compare
want to
this
try
to
it?
your existing architect? Yeah, we can do that. So like you want to
Okay,
review
so
your existing
first I will,
CloudFormation template or you're going to generate it from scratch?
now I want to tell you something. Like for this requirements, I was inspired from the AWS workshops called AWS Alien Attack, and that's the architecture that they designed. Okay, and as you can see, they almost use the same services. You can see AWS Lambda, Amazon Kinesis, data streams, but it didn't use Firehose and the Amazon API Gateway. I don't think it mentioned Route 53, or it did.
It did mention Route 53 and CloudFront, but it didn't mention the S3 bucket and the system
Yeah.
manager. So these two
No,
parts are
it
missing.
mentions the S3 bucket.
It did?
No,
Okay,
it
so
did.
it missed the system manager for
Yeah,
parameters.
S3 for static game assets. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
But also, like, I tried to turn this architecture into requirements to see if it's gonna design it like the AWS people did or not. So I think it's interesting. So yeah, what do you think?
I think the IAM part or like the identity and access management, will be included anyway because you have to set these up anyway. So this is fine if it's not there. But I think the part that is missing, that it missed in the architecture, is actually the system manager, where you will store application
AWS
parameters.
Systems Manager.
Yeah, this is quite interesting because you'll have to like here I think the architecture they use it for configurations, but they don't use it for parameters, which is odd. Like I don't understand how they use system manager here, but the agent completely missed this part, like the system manager. But I'm not even sure how they use it. Like if at first I thought they store parameters there, but like Lambda is its own like envar setup. But they mentioned like they consume configurations from system manager through the API gateway. So now I'm lost. I'm not sure how they use it. But that's interesting. Like it would be great if we can like make Stakpak at some point, draw diagrams. It's beautiful at this. So one thing that comes to mind is actually to write a rule book about like the eraser. So if you're not familiar with eraser.io, it's currently my favorite like diagramming tool because it's like a whiteboard app, but you can also generate diagrams as code or like export your diagrams as code, which made them very interoperable with LLMs. So what I do is like I design a diagram with visually and then export the architecture in text and give it to the LLM or the agent. But you can do it the other way around. Like you can instruct Stakpak with a rulebook about the Eraser DSL to create diagrams using the Eraser DSL. So this is maybe another rulebook we could add to allow it to write diagrams as code. And then I think you can use the Eraser API to turn these text diagrams into an image, which would be doubly cool. I think I launched I have an open source script that does that. It's a mini Golang project
Does what?
that I published. Yeah, to do that. But yeah, that would be great actually to add it as a tool, or add it as part of my Stackpack workflow. Is like rulebook with the DSL. It draws diagrams. I go call the Razor.io API, turn it into an image, so then I can visualize it.
Yeah, I think that would be really helpful, like because it's better than reading text.
Yes, exactly.
So now let's try optimizing the like cloud formation.
So the cloud formation you
Here,
have is of the same
already,
architecture, right? It's for the same app.
yeah, it's for to deploy the same architecture. I think the internet is so slow.
Where are you working now out of Turkey? Like, which city?
Istanbul.
Istanbul. So usually you have good connections in Istanbul, a good internet connection in Istanbul, or like is it it's a transit thing?
I mean, yeah, depends, but yeah, most of the time it's good. So I will just ask it to, I don't know, make it more secure.
You can just ask it to review the architecture, for example. Let's see if that would guide it to pull your new rulebook and take it into consideration. So for example, I would ask it review my cloud formation for AWS architecture issues or potential improvements.
Let's see. So it pulled the rule book. It's gonna analyze the template for architecture issues, identify security, scalability, and operational concerns, provide recommendations with priority levels. Analyzing your cloud formation template. The EC2 instance has full admin access, which runs a least privilege principle. A lot of security issues, but I want to see the other pillars. Here in reliability, it says we are using a single AZ, no backup. We are dependent on Lambda. It could fail the stack creation. the performance, like we're using a big like EC2 instance for a code editor, because it deploys also like Visual Studio Code. No caching, cost optimization, will pay for the elastic IP, even when the instance is stopped. No auto stop for development environment. It says that using ARM is good, and it recommends what we should do. Like we should change the policy.
Interesting. So it proposed new IAM
like,
policies that are
yeah.
more like buttoned up, or like more least privilege.
Yeah, I want to ask it like how can I make it more scalable, for example?
So if you combine
Also,
an
I wonder,
agent
like,
with the
what if
well architecture docs, you get like a mini solution architect.
Yeah, but I wonder, like, if I asked it, for example, to build a GDPR compliant infrastructure, what would it do? Auto scaling group and using ALB, which is common sense. Using ACS. I mean, Fargate is good, but I think it will be expensive. For cost optimization, it's recommending to use bot instances and using lifecycle policies. So yeah, I think it did good, like in optimizing the architecture, but like I don't know, like what do you think we can improve in the rulebook? Like if you are gonna rewrite it or modify it, what would you change?
I'll change a couple of things. Like the first one is make sure it uses Python to calculate costs. Like never like crunch numbers on its own. Use a calculator. That's the first part. I think another thing would be to draw better diagrams. So instead of like drawing like an ASCII art sort of diagram, to use a DSL like erasers, so I think I can visualize it, or use Mermaid, for example, and then I can pipe it somewhere to render it. Because like the diagram it drew was very basic, and it didn't use like I would have loved to see like the service icons or stuff like that. So I would have like added part or linked a rulebook or create another rulebook about like drawing diagrams, architecture diagrams specifically for cloud architecture. So you can draw better architecture. So better architecture diagrams, better like calculations for the costs as well. But I would also add that it should actually write a file, because what you did is like it generated like recommendations in just Markdown, but it never actually wrote it down into a file. So when I want to save this, I'll just like open the session and ask it to. Yeah. Sorry, what?
Yeah, like I think one of the like I asked it to write it into here, like write everything into a markdown architecture file. But I think like it was making sure like I'm not gonna modify anything else. But I think also
okay, so we didn't get to that part yet. Okay, yeah. That's all. Yeah, that's the thing I thought it was missing. It was really like comprehensive in terms of the questions it asked. Asked a lot of relevant questions. It considered security, considered scalability, considered costs, which is incredible. But again, yeah, just like how it presents the stuff should be better. I think it should like settle on the architecture first and then draw you the diagram. Also, I think you can draw a lot of like there are a lot of diagram types. Like there are data flow diagrams showing the logic, like how data flows and what kind of data goes where. But there's also architectural diagrams showing the services and how they're connected together. So yeah, there's a lot of nuances in like drawing a good diagram. So I think it deserves its own rulebook or like a big section on how to draw this stuff. Yeah, I think that's what I would add. And yeah, I think maybe at another another Ship It session, we can actually ask it to design. Like we have an application like the one you mentioned. Ask it to design something and then create that down into a markdown or like a file or a spec. But then ask it to take that apart and start implementing it in Terraform, for example, because it's much better than CloudFormation. And see how it would work. Like would it be able to take the design from architecture to production or not?
I think, yeah, that will be so interesting. It will be magical, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you did you did great with your first rulebook. It's amazing. It's more than I
Thank
expected.
you.
I actually used it in a couple of ways. Like you used it to design something. You use it as like a solution or like an architecture review. Because like we find a lot of users asking us that, like, is like asking the agent whether their like architecture is actually good. But the thing is, like, the agent without having a reference like the architecture, like, or the architecture rulebook, it wouldn't be able to compare your design to something. Like it has to compare to something to see, because like best practices are relative. And yeah, so you have to have some conventions or some ruler to compare it to or something.
I was thinking to give it access to the serverless land. It's maintained mostly by the AWS engineers. Like it has a lot of workflows and patterns and code examples, etc. And like it has a lot of the best practices. So if you want to do an application like connect a load balancer with Lambda, that's what would you do, etc. And like for a lot of the AWS services and programming languages. So,
yeah, this would be incredible. We should definitely whitelist this. It's incredible. Can you get the diagrams as text, or like do you have to see them as images? Like how do you
know, but like they have code examples, I guess, and can you deploy it? I think they have CloudFormation.
Yeah, so you can see code. Okay, great.
Yeah. And here you can see who made it. So there are ones by AWS engineers, there are ones from the community. And yeah, I think like they are high quality architectures.
Amazing. Yeah. I think that's great for today. Like, do you guys have any questions for Noor? And like, what would you like to see in Stakpak? Like, would you want us to talk more about like how to write rulebooks, how to use them? If you can think of
Maybe
anything
check
else.
other cloud providers.
Yes, because like the main reason we did this today is people asked a lot about like having the agent do architectural kind of work. Like we had one very active, one very active user that wanted to think about like how to architect their setup around a specific new feature they were launching, and we thought this would be something that would help them. So yeah, please let us know in the comments or like just reach out on Discord. Would love to help you out. And yeah, if you have a specific project in mind, if you'd like to see another Asian battle, just tell us. And yeah, thank you, Noor, a lot for today. Like it was very interesting. I've never seen like the well-architected framework being applied this fast. So you did a great work with the rulebook. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for your insights.
Yeah. So yeah, have fun, everyone. See you in the next Ship It session. Happy hacking. Bye.